I paid off my in-laws' mortgage after they almost lost their home. At Christmas, they gave everyone gifts but me. We figured you had enough, his sister said. My husband laughed. You always said gifts don't matter. I smiled through dinner. But later that night, when everyone slept, I took out the folder I'd been saving for. I'm 38 years old. I've been married to Eric for 8 years. We live in Knoxville, Tennessee, and until recently, I thought I had a solid marriage. I also thought I had a decent relationship with my in-laws. I was wrong on both counts. This story isn't about just one night. It's about years of slowly being pushed to the edge by people who took until there was nothing left but my patience. And this Christmas, they finally drained the last drop. So, here it goes. Eric and I met at a 4th of July party thrown by a mutual friend. He had this chill energy, made me laugh right away. I was already in a good place in life. Decent job managing a dental clinic, good credit, owned my own place. He was freelancing and didn't have much money, but I didn't care. He made me feel safe. That was enough. We got married 2 years later. I paid for most of the wedding. Again, I didn't keep score. I just wanted us to start life together. His family was different from mine. I grew up in a strict, no-nonsense home. My parents worked hard and died early. I didn't inherit anything but discipline. I built what I have from scratch. Eric's family, though, they always struggled. His parents, Barbara and Roy, had worked regular jobs but weren't great with money. His sister Stephanie never left town, had 2 kids from 2 different guys who didn't stick around, and bounced from one part-time job to another. Still, I liked them. Or I thought I did. Every Christmas, we went to his parents' house. They lived just outside of town in a modest 1-story place. It was a little run-down, but cozy. The kind of house with faded pictures of school plays and old graduation caps on the walls. Last year, in March, everything changed. One night, Eric sat me down and told me his parents were about to lose their house. They were behind almost a year on payments. Stephanie had already taken a cash advance out of some sketchy app and maxed out 2 cards trying to help. They were desperate. We can't let them end up homeless, he said. I asked what the options were. He didn't have any. I said I'd look into it. What I didn't tell them at the time was that I took 3 days off work, drove to the bank myself, sat down with a loan officer, and went over every detail of that mortgage. I found out exactly how much they owed, $54,300. I paid it off from my savings. They got to keep the house. They cried. They thanked me. Stephanie even said, "You're basically the only real adult in this family." But after that, nothing. No follow-up. No talk of paying me back. Not even a formal thank you. It started to eat at me. Quietly. I told myself, you helped. That's enough. But still. I noticed things. That summer, they got a new couch. A giant flat screen. Stephanie took her kids to Disney. Not a word to me. By fall, I'd stopped bringing it up. But something told me I needed to protect myself. So I made sure that when I sent the money to the bank, it came with strings. A friend of mine from high school, Alex, works in real estate law. I had him draw up a lien in my name. It wasn't a big flashy document. Just a quiet little piece of paper saying that if the house was sold, I got my money back, with interest. And if I ever had reason to believe they were mistreating me or violating the terms of our verbal agreement, I could call in the lien early. I never told them. Now, fast forward to Christmas. I didn't even want to go this year. I was tired. Work had been insane, I'd just trained a new assistant, and I was dealing with headaches almost daily. But Eric pushed. It's important to them, he said. Just show up, eat, relax. So I went. I bought gifts for everyone. Good ones. Not cheap. Stephanie got a Kindle and a gift card for books. Roy got a heated blanket, he'd been complaining about back pain for months. Barbara? I got her a small diamond necklace. Elegant. Simple. Something that said, "You matter." We got to the house around 3 p.m. Stephanie was already there with the kids. They ran up to me yelling, "Auntie." That warmed me, a little. At least the kids still liked me. Dinner was the usual. Loud, chaotic, filled with half overcooked and half undercooked food. But I smiled through it. I always do. After we ate, everyone moved to the living room to open gifts. I handed mine out first. Everyone gushed over their presents. Barbara cried when she saw the necklace. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Then she said, "All right, our turn." She started handing out gift bags. Roy gave Eric a fancy new watch. Stephanie gave her kids matching tablets. Even Roy got a brand new smartphone. Then they all sat down and looked at me like the show was over. Nothing. Not even a card. I looked around, thinking maybe someone forgot something. That's when Stephanie leaned over and said, with this smug little smile, "We figured you had enough, you know?" Eric laughed and added, "You always said gifts didn't matter." I froze. My face burned. I forced a smile. Right. Totally fine. No one noticed that I didn't speak for the rest of the night. We stayed the night in the guest room. Eric fell asleep in minutes, snoring like nothing had happened. Me? I sat in the dark, wide awake. I reached under the bed where I had hidden a folder in my suitcase. Inside was every document from the past year. Bank statements. Proof of payment. Emails between me and the loan officer. And the contract my friend Alex drew up, signed and notarized. I stared at it for over an hour. And I made a decision. They all thought I was the safe one. The mature one. The one who'd never fight back. They were wrong. The day after Christmas, I didn't say much. We had breakfast with the family, acted normal. I helped clean up the plates, folded the blankets from the kids' sleepover, smiled when Barbara offered me some of her famous banana bread for the road. I took it. Said thanks. But inside, I wasn't smiling. Eric didn't notice anything. On the way home, he talked about some new freelance project and how maybe we should take a weekend trip in February. I nodded along, but I wasn't even listening. My mind was spinning. Back at our house, I told him I was tired and needed to unpack. He kissed my cheek and went to his office to play video games. That night, I made copies of everything in the folder. 2 full sets. One for my lawyer. One for my personal safe. I also scanned everything to a cloud drive I don't think Eric even knows I have. Then I called Alex. "Is it time?" he asked. I'd told him months ago to sit tight, not file anything unless I gave the word. I said, "Yeah. Start the process." He said okay and didn't ask why. That's why I trust him. 2 weeks passed. I acted like nothing had changed. Eric was still clueless. We had dinner together, watched a few shows. He told me Stephanie was planning a birthday party for one of the kids. "You should come," he said. "They miss you." I smiled. Maybe. What I was really doing was waiting for the letter to be delivered. On the 3rd Monday of January, it arrived. Barbara called that night. I didn't pick up. Then she texted. "Barbara, what is this? You're forcing a sale of our home? Why would you do this?" I waited a few hours, then replied, "Me, per the lien filed in March. You should have read the paperwork." She didn't answer after that. The next morning, Stephanie texted me. Long message, full of guilt-tripping. "Stephanie, I can't believe you do this to your own family. You said it was a gift. You said that. This is evil." I didn't reply. I wanted them to sit in it. To feel what I felt sitting on that couch Christmas night, after giving them everything, and being treated like I was invisible. Eric came home from running errands and slammed the door. "Why the hell is my mom calling me crying? What did you do?" I didn't flinch. I filed the lien. The one I set up last year when I paid off the house. "You told me it was a gift." "No," I said calmly. You assumed it was. I never said that. And your family made it very clear that I'm just the wallet to them. He stared at me like he didn't recognize who I was. You're going to make my parents homeless? No. I'm forcing them to either pay me back or sell the house. They have a choice. But the part where they get to insult me and still keep what I bought them, that part's over. He stormed out. Said he needed space. Good. Take all the space you need. The next week was a circus. Stephanie posted some long, dramatic rant on Facebook about how certain people pretend to be generous just to control others and family doesn't mean anything to some folks. She never used my name, but everyone knew who she meant. Some of her friends, people I hadn't spoken to in years, started messaging me, asking what was going on. A few were passive-aggressive. One called me cold. I didn't reply to any of them. Meanwhile, Barbara and Roy tried to stall the process. Their lawyer contacted Alex, claiming they had no idea about the lien. Alex sent over signed copies. They shut up after that. Eric barely looked at me. I started sleeping in the guest room. He never apologized. Never once said, I understand. Instead, he told me I was ruining everything. That's when I knew we were done. But I wasn't finished yet. Because I'd been keeping another secret. Back in October, I had asked Alex about another document. Quietly. Just in case. It was a postnuptial agreement. I had never used it. But it sat in my folder, waiting. And now, it was time. 3 days after the Facebook post, I walked into the kitchen to grab coffee. Eric was already there, sitting at the table, arms crossed. His phone was face down in front of him. We need to talk, he said. I didn't sit. He leaned back in the chair and exhaled like he was the one carrying the weight. My mom hasn't been sleeping. Stephanie's furious. You're tearing the family apart over something that was supposed to be out of love. I stared at him. No, I said. I paid off a $54,000 debt. I saved your parents from foreclosure. Then I got ignored at Christmas like I was the maid. That tore the family apart. He shook his head. They didn't mean it that way. I laughed. You know what I think, Eric? I think they did mean it that way. I think your sister resents me. Your mom looks down on me because I work and I don't beg. And you? You laugh at me in front of them, then call me cruel behind closed doors. He didn't answer. So I asked the real question. If they had handed out gifts to everyone but you, would you have laughed? He looked away. That told me everything. Later that night, I opened my laptop and emailed Alex. I attached the unsigned postnup and said, it's time. Final version, ready to present. Let me know if we need a meeting. He replied 2 hours later. Said we could make it official this week. Said he'd even bring in a neutral third-party lawyer to witness, to avoid drama. I printed out the papers and put them in an envelope. 2 days later, I asked Eric if we could talk after dinner. We sat on the couch. I handed him the envelope. He opened it, read the first page, and went still. This is a postnup, he said. Correct. You don't trust me? I looked him in the eye. I trust you to protect them over me. Every single time. This isn't just about money. It's about respect. And I need protection now, not promises. He scanned the document. What's this part about separate assets and debt? It means your family's problems stay your family's problems. Going forward, nothing I earn, own, or invest can be claimed by you unless I agree in writing. He stared at me like I'd slapped him. You think I'm using you? I didn't answer. He kept flipping pages, his hands getting shakier. Then he saw the clause about the house. My house. The one mostly paid with my savings. The clause stated, if the marriage ended or we legally separated, I would retain sole ownership of the home. No debate. He dropped the envelope on the coffee table. So what now, he said. If I don't sign this, we're done? No, I said. If you don't understand why I need it, we're done. He stood up. Paced. I don't even know who you are anymore. I got up too. I'm the same woman who cleared your parents' debt without blinking. Who carried our finances while you chased clients that didn't pay. Who made excuses for your sister's selfishness and smiled through your silence. He looked like he wanted to fight back, but nothing came out. The next morning, he left to clear his head. He stayed with Stephanie. She texted me later that night, "Stephanie, you better be careful. You're pushing too far." I didn't reply. But I saved the text. Alex told me to screenshot every single message from this point on. Meanwhile, Barbara's lawyer tried one last tactic, offering to repay part of the lien over 5 years, with no interest. Alex laughed. Tell them we're past the negotiation window. I told him to move forward with the forced sale. 3 days later, the process was officially filed. Then, the next twist dropped. Eric came home after nearly a week at Stephanie's. He looked different, tired, pale, like he hadn't slept. He sat down at the kitchen table without a word. Then he dropped a bomb. Stephanie said the kids might not even be Roy's. She's been hiding stuff. Credit cards in his name. Loans in Barbara's name, too. I froze. What are you talking about? She's been taking money from them for years. Signing their names on things. Mom's too embarrassed to say anything, but it's all coming out now. I stared at him. And now they want me to fix it? I asked. He didn't answer. But he didn't deny it either. That's when I realized something else. This wasn't just a bad Christmas. This was a rotting family tree. And Eric? He was tied to it like an anchor. But I wasn't going down with them. Not anymore. After Eric told me about the loans and credit cards Stephanie had taken out in Roy and Barbara's names, I realized something. They weren't just ungrateful. They were users. All of them. Even him. They'd been pulling each other down for years, and I'd been dumb enough to step in thinking I was helping. But all I did was slow down the fall. They didn't want help, they wanted someone to carry the weight for them. Well, not anymore. That night, I slept like a rock. Next morning, I made 2 calls. One to Alex. One to a private investigator I had worked with a year ago during a messy employee theft situation at my clinic. He was quiet, fast, and didn't ask questions he didn't need answers to. I asked him to dig into Stephanie's financials. I gave him the list of banks and companies I'd seen on Roy and Barbara's mail over the years. He said, "Give me a week." He called back in 4 days. Stephanie had opened 4 credit cards in Roy's name. 2 loans in Barbara's. She'd been using the money to fund vacations, electronics, even paying off a guy's truck, someone she dated briefly 2 years ago. And here's the kicker, one of the credit cards was still active. She was paying minimums using Barbara's social security check. I told Alex. He took that and attached it to the case for the house sale. Then he helped me prepare documents to send to Roy and Barbara's lawyer. When they opened the packet, it didn't just include the lien sale paperwork. It had the full report of Stephanie's fraud. Signed. Notarized. Proof. I knew what would happen next. And I wasn't wrong. A week later, I got a call from Roy. He was crying. He didn't deny anything. He just said, "You destroyed us." I stayed quiet until he stopped. Then I said, "No, Roy. Stephanie did that. I just opened the curtains so you could see the damage." Barbara called next. She begged me to reconsider the house sale. Said they would figure something out. Asked if I would at least wait until they sorted out the Stephanie mess. I told her, "You've had a year. You chose her every time. Now you live with it." Then I hung up. The house sold 6 weeks later. Barbara and Roy were forced to move into a 1-bedroom apartment across town. No more backyard. No more porch. Roy's dog had to go to a neighbor because the apartment didn't allow pets. Stephanie? She got charged. Barbara finally pressed charges against her own daughter after her lawyer told her it was either Stephanie or both of them getting dragged into court. Stephanie lost custody of her kids. Turns out she'd been so focused on stealing money that she'd stopped feeding them properly. The school had already filed a concern with CPS. The kids went to live with their dad, yes, one of them. The other went to live with a foster family. I still check in with the social worker. Eric tried to fix things between us. After all of that. After all the lies and silence and taking sides, he still thought we could go back to normal. He sat across from me at our kitchen table, same place he laughed when I didn't get a gift that night. He said, "I was stupid. I see that now. You were right." I nodded. But I didn't say what he wanted to hear. Instead, I handed him a copy of the divorce papers. He looked stunned. "You're really doing this?" "I already did," I said. "My name's the only one on the house." The postnup made it official. "You're not getting alimony. You're not getting a dime. I'll give you 30 days to move out." He started to say something, but stopped. He knew it was over. And me? I changed too. For a long time, I used to think being quiet, polite, and helpful would eventually be seen. That one day people would appreciate how much I gave. Now I know better. Now I put boundaries first. I stopped talking to people who only call when they need something. I took a vacation to Arizona, by myself. I joined a women's business group that meets twice a month. I even reconnected with an old friend I hadn't seen since college. We've been texting a lot lately. Maybe something's there. I don't regret paying off the mortgage. I regret who I did it for. But I don't sit with regret anymore. Because when it was time to stand up for myself, I did more than talk. I made sure every single person who disrespected me felt it. Not with yelling. Not with drama. But with action. With a signed lien. With court filings. With silence when they wanted comfort. The woman they ignored on Christmas? She's gone. The woman who smiled through being dismissed? She's gone too. Now they know who I am. Now they remember me. And I didn't have to lift a finger in anger. I just let the truth, and the paperwork, do the talking.